Gotcha. Big Bag Mama asks, how does his particular Asatru church treat LGBT folks?
I think our default stance is to treat anyone kindly, but we do believe that LGBT and the other things along with that, as regards sexuality and gender identity, are tragic mental illness, and we wish those people would get back to good health.
Gotcha. Big Bad Mama asks, why doesn't Jesus reveal himself more obviously to believers and non-believers in everyday life?
I just have a simple personal opinion about this, and that is that the from a very high spiritual place, it's enormous. It exhausts a ton of capital to manifest, and it would be like me traveling to give my lottery winnings to an inveterate junkie gambler or something like that. I mean, who calls, I just think that the design of Jesus, it's a very challenging and a very difficult one. He cares about the world. He cares about human suffering, and I think his work has to be very strategic and very well done. And so we might think we have better ways of how Jesus might do things, but I think where the fact that we may not see him more easily or something like that is related to him trying to help the world in the finest and most strategically effective way.
Big Bad Mama asks, how do they explain the Book of Abraham and the Kinderhook plates, which prove Joseph Smith was a fraud? I don't know anything about that.
That's Tom's? No, just kidding. No, yeah, no.
So
actually,
those can be the whole Kinderhook plates is not there's nothing. There's no solid foundation for that. That's
totally fell through way back in the 1800s. I believe it was actually
that was proved to be false. Yeah, the whole Kinderhook thing is proven to be false long ago. And the Book of Abraham is an interesting one though, because that is more of a Kinderhook plates, we can throw that out automatically. That's the whole Kinderhook plates is just that was proven false long time ago.
Actually, that was even by the person
that's nothing. The Book of Abraham, person that committed the fraud, the fraud. So anyway. Book of Abraham, though, however, is interesting. I've seen a lot of interesting discussion about that because what I'm assuming that Big Bad Mama is referring to is like in the Book of Abraham, one of the things, there's a facsimile and there's a description of what it's describing. And so this facsimile has apparently found in other contexts. And so what Joseph Smith claimed that the images depicting was not what the other archaeological evidence seemed to bear out. And the best, to my opinion, I've heard lots of different explanations for this. The thing that makes the most sense to me is that the Book of Abraham was not intended to necessarily be a literal translation. The way that Joseph Smith translated was sometimes literal translation, but sometimes was more through inspiration. And he could look at a thing and possibly come away with a message that might seem irrelevant to even from the original thing. For me, I feel it's kind of like I can see things in my life and I can infer things. I can see something that'll inspire my mind in such a way that the thoughts that come to my mind might not have anything of direct relevance to the original item. However, the original item can be credited with giving me the inspiration for the thoughts that came from it. So
Big Bad Mama says, George, name one history that mentioned Jesus during his supposed life. Historian, I believe.
Someone did a movie on this recently. I forgot the name of the movie, but they proved the historical Jesus existed.
What?
Well, they demonstrated or suggested that the historical Jesus existed, whatever term you want me to use. I forgot the name of the movie. I think it's, let me Google it here.
He made 3 movies, didn't he? It was like a trilogy.
Case for Christ, 2017.
That's
The Case for Christ. So, I am not a historical expert on all that stuff, but The Case for Christ 2017 movie, I'll let that speak for my answer.
question for George from Big Bad Mama. Why do you think during abiogenesis there would have to be a fine line between non-life and life?
Because molecules will have to arrange themselves into the first self-replicating, self-sustaining. And that's a big important thing there. Even if molecules can arrange themselves into something that seem like life, like a battery, the battery would run out of energy and die. It would have to be self-sustaining. So the first life forms would have to be able to either attain energy from the sun or somehow, like plants do, or would have to attain energy from eating other organisms, as we do now. So what would the first life forms eat? They would be, if they ate themselves, they would die out. And if they became plants, well, they'd still have to have self-replicating systems in them to produce seed. So life itself could come to existence theoretically by abiogenesis, but unless it was life that was able to reproduce itself, it's going to die out in one generation. So that's a problem right there. Reproductive systems are a problem.
Luckily, we have matter that is not alive that can self-reproduce. So that is
whoa, matter can self-reproduce?
Yes, we have self-reproducing molecules of non-living things.
Such as?
Crystals.
They came from nothing or came from something else? They came from something else. They didn't come from non-matter.
Nothing came from non-matter. Everything came from matter and energy.
Crystals came from nothing. They
self-reproduction is not the same as coming from nothing. Those are two different things. Two very, very different things.
Well, crystals, when they get up, walk and move and chew and eat, let me know about it.
Big Bad Mama asks, can you discuss the influence of the author Joseph Campbell and Akira Kurosawa on the Hidden Fortress in Star Wars?
Yeah, absolutely. Akira is a big influence of George Lucas. He said that from the beginning, that the Jedi were supposed to be set up like those old samurai types from the serials, and from the I always have a hard time with his name. Kurosawa films, where the lone wolf and cub and that kind of thing. And the Mandalorian shows that as well. So yeah, I mean, George Lucas is just deep in that stuff, and then carrying on with that tradition now with Lucasfilm.
For sure. And so what was their influence specifically? Because I don't know the history behind these two individuals and what influence they had. What specifically did they achieve in the field?
Joseph Campbell, I'm not really sure of, but Akira Kurosawa was groundbreaking with the kind of stuff he did with the angles of lens and the way the hero was portrayed as this guy that, I don't even know how to explain it now, that he was like a lone wolf, but still moral, still had that moral compass. Kind of like what you were asking before, if anybody had left the Jedi Order and continued on with Jedi philosophy that was supposed to be better than what the Jedi Order was. That's kind of what Kurosawa was doing.
Big Bad Mama asks, what are your thoughts on Lucas messing with the first film after the fact, especially the interaction between Han and Greedo?
Han was the only one to shoot. Sorry. It took away a lot from his character when George Lucas changed that. When he made Greedo shoot first and Han do this, it took a lot away, because Han was supposed to be a scoundrel. He was supposed to be a survivor trying to survive, and Greedo was a threat to him, and he wasn't going to wait for Greedo to shoot him. He had his pistol ready under the table and went ahead and shot him. George Lucas changing that kind of softened Han Solo up quite a bit, and I like that he was rough in the beginning and down and dirty and ready to kill anybody that got in his way, and then softened over time. Instead, he changed it to him being soft.
Yep, I think that definitely is, and it was unrealistic too. Thinking he was like, you can't dodge a laser blast like that. It doesn't even make sense.
Right. You wouldn't even see it coming. It would have hit you in the face.
Yep. Seemed more like one of those political correctness things changed to make him more nice when it just doesn't fit the character.
Right, kind of demasculating the guy a little bit.